So I literally loved What If Season 2. I think it was the perfect multiverse companion show to everything that the MCU is creating in live action. And I just thought it was just such a wicked 30-minute episode series. I didn't love the release strategy of it releasing pretty much every single day during the end of 2023, as I thought it was more effective when it was once a week. But nonetheless, it was just such a cool show, and I think they just went even bigger, better, and bolder than Season 1. I think Season 1 was a really great introductory show in terms of the Watcher, in terms of everything that is happening across this wide multiverse, and I think it allowed Season 2 to just totally explode it. In terms of comparing Season 1 to Season 2, I think for the most part, Season 2 is slightly stronger, apart from the finale, because I think the Season 1 finale was just pure gold. And on that point, I just love all of the characters, the new characters, so to speak, slash variants that the What If series is creating, because I think Vision Infinity was just an absolute boss at the end of Season 1, and I just cannot wait to see him being translated into live action. And then just all of the wicked variants that we saw in What If Season 2, for example, the reformed Hela the Conqueror was so cool, and of course Corey as well, and I cannot wait to see these characters hopefully one day coming into live action, most probably in Avengers Secret Wars, and I just think it's honestly going to be so glorious when that happens. One thing that I don't really understand, apart from the Watcher, is that why on earth are they making Captain Carter so front and center? She literally is the face of What If from a character's perspective, like I said, outside of Jeffrey Wright's The Watcher, obviously. And I just think if they're going to do that, there are so many better alternative characters that they can do this with, as unfortunately, I think Captain Carter was a cool variant idea, but I don't think she's that fun, I don't think she's that exciting, and I think there's, like I said, so many better other characters. Speaking of which, there are certain characters that definitely should have been more prominent in Season 2, most noticeably Wanda, and of course Spider-Man, who wasn't in any of the episodes, which was just so ridiculous. The creators did say that the X-Men were totally out of bounds and out of scope until they make their live action debut, so when that happens, I cannot wait to see X-Men in What If as well. And I just think it's such a cool, underrated, Saturday morning-esque type show, and I just think from an animation perspective, they have honestly smashed it, as the animation just looks so beautiful, so crisp, so lifelike, and I'm surprised that more animation houses haven't adopted this animation style, as like I said, it just looks so cool. And it definitely feels very quintessentially Marvel Studios, as it's full of jokes, and I just think all of the humor and all of the comedic moments is just so good, and is very individual for everyone's style. So for example, Paul Rudd making jokes is very Paul Rudd, all of the Loki Thor banter, all of the characters I think from a comedic style are really, really wicked. And I just love all of the twists and turns, all of the unexpected things that suddenly take place that really do shock you, whilst also having very familiar particular character traits. So for example, Nebula always being one step ahead, Yon Rong always betraying people because he's got that evil side in him. All of that stuff was really, really cool. And I just think it expanded the Marvel space in such a good way. So honestly, I cannot stop the praise for What If Season 2, because I think it was just constructed in such a good way. However, certain episodes weren't as good as others, so let's rank all 9 of them now. So first, in 9th place, I'm unfortunately going to put the Iron Man and the Grand Master episode. I mean, personally, I'm just not the biggest fan of Sakaar or pod racing, which we've definitely seen taking a life of its own when Phantom Menace was released, as a pod racing game was not that far behind, no pun intended. But I just thought this episode just didn't work in that great of a way. I think Gamora could have been fleshed out better. I think Tony Stark was pretty much the only redeeming factor in here. And I just think whilst it was great, while certain voice actors reprised their role, for example Taika Waititi and of course the Grand Master, I just think as an episode it just didn't work as well as it could have done, and this was always the missing episode from the first season, and I can't really see why they didn't just include it. In 8th position, I'm going to put the Captain Carter and Hydra Stomper episode. Like I said, I am just so over Captain Carter just being stuffed in as many episodes as they can fit her in. And I'm also kind of over the whole Captain Carter not ever being with Steve Rogers type storyline. I mean, they've got the happy ending at the end of Avengers Endgame, and I just think they've used and squeezed that storyline to death, and I'm just so over it. And whilst Lake Bell is really, really good in doing a bit of a Natasha Romanoff impersonation, as you would actually think that Scarlett Johansson has reprised her role, because she just plays her so well, but unfortunately Black Widow wasn't the best movie, And while it was cool to see certain characters from that world being in this episode as well. So I just think as a whole, whilst this episode did have some cool moments, overall it didn't really work for me. Next I'm going to put the season finale. So I think Strange Supreme was such a cool character. I actually loved his episode in season 1 where his whole world is just being destroyed and he is just eating up all these powers and is literally becoming one of the most threatening superpowered beings in the whole MCU. So it was really cool to see this character once again, and you can also see that, you know, he is still up to his old evil tricks. And I just thought that twist was really, really wicked. I loved seeing all these evil ancient powers that he consumed in season 1 now making an appearance in season 2. But the battle of these 3 overpowered, super powerful characters just could have and should have been even more explosive than it finally was. It was just them attacking one another, and I just think it got a little bit boring. I mean, there was a lot of tension when all of these characters then got broken out, and then are just falling to their doom, and then how are they going to save all of them? All of those moments were really, really wicked, but I just feel like as a whole, this episode could have and should have been so much better, especially as it was competing pretty much with the season 1 finale, which, like I said, was literally on another level, no pun intended. Next, I'm going to put the Peter Quill episode. So I thought this was really, really cool, as we got a brand new, different team, and I just thought it was really, really clever to see an older generation of Avenger characters coming together. I mean, I'm the biggest Hank Pym character, and I just think this particular character has just been so underutilized in the MCU. I mean, he is a founding member of the Avengers, and I just think it was really cool to see him in this team. We obviously got T'Chaka there, we got Bucky in there, which is really, really funny, and we also got Ego, who I think is also another underrated villain, who is pretty much a celestial and can just eat up all these planets. And it was just so cool to see all of these brilliant veteran actors reprising their roles from live action. On that point, I think What If Season 2 did such a good job in terms of getting so many A-listers to reprise their roles. I think, honestly, that alone is just such an incredible triumph. And I just think this episode is really, really cool, like I said, to see a brand new team coming together. And like I referenced earlier, the familiar character traits was really, really cool when you can see Peter Quill actually having a bit of a friendship with Hope Van Dyne. Next, I'm going to put Nebula joining the Nova Corps. So this episode is really, really cool, as it was a bit of a spy espionage episode. And I just thought it was really, really wicked to see Jude Law reprising his role as Jon Rogg, as he was such a wicked character in the first Captain Marvel movie, and everybody thought he would play such a bigger role in the MCU, as everyone was thinking he was going to be Captain Marvel, which could have been really, really wicked, and it is a little bit of a shame that that never happened, but either way, it was cool to see him here once again, and there was just so much double crossing, triple crossing in this episode. I literally loved every single minute of it, and I just think Nebula just held it from the front in such a cool way. Next, I'm going to put the Happy Hogan Saves Christmas episode. So this episode, I was thinking is just going to be a bit of a throwaway joke episode that isn't going to be that great, but actually, Happy Hogan versus Justin Hammer, it shouldn't have been as outrageously funny as it was, but it honestly just worked so well. I just think Jon Favreau did such a good job in terms of firstly reprising his role as Happy Hogan and just being so funny in this episode, and then having that stealth sequence was so cool, and then being injected with the Hulk blood DNA and then becoming his own Hulk variant. And we know that the Captain America 4 movie that's going to be coming very soon is going to have a number of Hulk characters in there. So I think it was really, really clever actually to tease this to the audience. Now we're in the top 3. So in the 3rd place, I'm going to put the Kahori episode. So I honestly thought this episode was so good, even though there wasn't any English being spoken. It was all via subtitles, but I still think it was so emotional. And you were just so connected with all of these different characters, and you just felt for them. And I just thought it was really, really cool just seeing this brand new world, a bit like Talo from Shang-Chi, and everything is very super powered, and you can just see that Kahori literally has got such a pure heart, as she can stay in this paradise scenario, but actually she chooses to go back, save everybody from all of these Spanish invaders, and then pretty much save the day in the human Earth world. And we all know that she is soon going to be coming into live action, so I can't wait for that moment, because like I said, I think this is Marvel's Pocahontas, and I just think she is just such a cool, wicked character. In 2nd place, I'm going to put the 1602 episode, which I'm actually quite surprised by, because typically I don't like things that are set way in the past, but I actually think they did a really good job with this Elizabethan inspired episode, because they kept all of the known character traits intact. And I think it was cool right in the beginning, even though it was pretty much for like a minute, to see all of Odin's kids actually getting on. And I think Hela is such a cool character, and the fact that she was actually spread across What If Season 2 quite a lot was a good idea. And I think Thor was absolutely hilarious. I think the Thor sword using all that lightning power was absolutely wicked. Loki is still being Loki in this world, and of course we've seen him becoming the keeper of the multiverse. It was really nice actually to see that there are other Loki variants still there, which I think is going to be really, really wicked to explore even more in the future, because we did get the tease right at the end of What If Season 2 that Captain Carter and the Watcher are soon maybe going to visit Loki with his magical multiverse tree. And I thought it was really, really cool that Steve Rogers, even though, like I said, I'm so over seeing Steve Rogers and Captain Carter's Forbidden Romance storyline just being extended for so long, but this time I think they put a new edge to it, which is that actually Steve Rogers is the man out of time, because this is what happened when he accidentally hit Thanos' time stone. I think that was really, really clever. And even though we definitely should have had more Wanda, I think she was really cool here too. Which brings us to the number 1 best episode of What If Season 2, which has to be the Hela and the Ten Rings episode. Honestly, this one was so good, so unexpectedly wicked, and I just love Asgard, and it was really cool to explore more of Asgard here, and to actually hear a lot more about Odin and Hela, and all of their partnerships right in the beginning. But actually, this time Odin is going to banish Hela to Earth because she is getting even more ruthless than he is envisioning her to. And in this scenario, she actually turns into a good character. Honestly, that arc was so good, and it was just even better that Cate Blanchett chose to reprise her role, and I'm just really hopeful that one day we'll see her again in live action, as this heroic take on Hela is just so good. And then when you partner her up with the Shang-Chi universe, and you got to see a lot of the things being retold from her perspective that we saw in that Shang-Chi movie, for example, exploring that Forbidden Forest, getting into Tallow, just learning everything and just becoming a true heroic character, and then partnering her up with Wenwu, and then getting them to fight Odin, and then ultimately not killing Odin right at the end, and then her going to other dimensions. It was honestly so good, and I just think this episode just came out of nowhere because it was just so unbelievably wicked, and like I said, just had to get the number 1 spot, as it was just such a remarkable episode. So like I said, I cannot praise What If Season 2 enough, because it was just such a wicked show to watch, and I just loved every single episode. Even though I had to do a ranking, I did enjoy every single episode, and it was just such a well-crafted show. And I just have to give props to all of the writers, creators, directors, etc. that put this show together, and of course the voice actors too, because it was just such a love letter to Marvel fans, and I just think it was so enjoyable. And I already cannot wait to see what they're going to be doing with Season 3, as the first 2 seasons for What If have just been so strong. And like I said, I just cannot wait to see what's going to happen in the future, and I'm just really hopeful that we'll just get more and more and more seasons of this show, because it just works so well. But with the multiverse saga ending with Secret Wars, let's see what's going to happen. Maybe they can continue, and if they do, I think it would be an absolutely brilliant decision. But as far as What If Season 2 is concerned, I absolutely loved it, and so I'm going to give it a mega 8 out of 10. Now I'd love to hear from you. What did you think of What If Season 2? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.